Hey Cowboys Nation, today we are diving deep into everything going on with Dallas. And let me tell you, there's a lot to unpack. The team is sitting at 3 wins and 3 losses, which is one of those strange records that somehow feels like it could go either way as the season unfolds. We're not out of the fight in the NFC yet, and that alone gives fans a reason to stay excited. The defense has shown glimpses of improvement, especially in Week 7 when they held an opponent to just 22 points. But the truth is, there's still work to be done. That performance was solid, but it's not the kind of defensive dominance that makes you confident for a deep playoff run. And when you look at the way the offense has been performing, it's clear that the team is still figuring out some of its pieces. The mix of talent is there, but consistency has been a challenge, and that's where the conversation around trades really starts to heat up. The idea of making a trade isn't just about shaking things up, it's about finding the right move at the right time. You can't just trade for the sake of trading, and in Dallas, strategy matters both in the short term and for the long-term health of the roster. The Cowboys have some key assets, particularly in this year's draft, that give them flexibility. 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick stand out as the most valuable pieces, while there are also mid-round options like a 4th-rounder and a couple of 5th-round selections. The details of these picks can change, of course, especially the compensatory 5th-rounders, which aren't guaranteed just yet. That kind of flexibility opens doors if the team decides to be aggressive in the trade market, but again, it has to make sense. It's not enough to grab a player just because they're available. The move has to genuinely improve the roster in a meaningful way. When you start thinking about who the Cowboys might realistically target, it's a mix of stars and high-upside players. The elite names are often unavailable, the kind of players who could immediately transform a team, and those trades tend to happen once a year if at all. That means Dallas has to be smart with their assets and careful not to overpay for someone who doesn't truly fit their scheme. Day 3 draft picks can be used to fill depth, sure, but if you want to change the trajectory of the season, you're looking at 1st or 2nd-round talent. Players who can come in and make an impact from day 1, and ideally grow into long-term contributors. That's the fine line management is walking, balancing the urgency of the present with the health of the franchise moving forward. Of course, talk about trades spark speculation, and you hear names floating around in the media all the time. Some are realistic, others are more wishful thinking, and the truth is the Cowboys front office has to filter through all of it carefully. A lot of times, a player will look like a great fit on paper, but the cost might not match the potential reward. That's particularly true for pass rushers, who are always in demand. The Cowboys could use reinforcement on the edge, but it's not just about adding any pass rusher. It's about adding someone who can step in and produce, someone who complements the existing defensive structure rather than creating salary cap headaches or positional redundancy. And speaking of the salary cap, contracts always play a huge role in any potential trade. Take some of the pass rushers currently discussed around the league. Their recent contracts, injury history, and projected cap hits for the rest of the season all come into play. It's not just about performance on the field. The financial angle can make or break a deal. A player might be affordable this season, but balloon into a multi-million-dollar commitment in the following years, which could tie up resources the Cowboys would rather allocate elsewhere. That's why front offices don't rush into these trades. They have to consider every angle. The Cowboys have the luxury of time right now. They don't need to make a move immediately. They can watch how the team develops over the next couple of weeks and see which opportunities truly present value. The other factor is the competitive landscape of the NFC. The division and conference are still wide open in many ways. Teams are struggling with injuries, inconsistent performances, and lineup shuffles, which means Dallas can potentially make a strategic move to leapfrog rivals. But timing is everything. Making a trade too early could leave them exposed later, while waiting too long could mean missing out on a player who ends up elsewhere. That's where patience and insight into the market become crucial. It's a delicate dance between aggression and caution, and right now, the Cowboys front office seems willing to wait for the right window. And when you start to get specific, a few names come up repeatedly. There are players who have shown flashes of brilliance, some who could be available due to team situations, and others who might be closer to tradable based on cap or roster considerations. The goal is to identify someone who is affordable, productive, and capable of stepping in immediately. Some targets might be slightly underperforming stars. Others could be young players ready to take the next step. But the common thread is that the Cowboys want to make a meaningful addition, not just fill a gap. They need someone who elevates the unit and complements the team's strengths rather than creating new challenges. One of the challenges with targeting defensive players is that their performance can be hard to project. Pass rushers, for example, often have variable stats depending on scheme, supporting cast, and health. A player might have had a breakout year previously but struggled in a new system, or vice versa. That's why scouting reports, advanced analytics, and film study become essential for evaluating potential trade candidates. The Cowboys are not only looking at raw numbers. They are analyzing pressure rates, sack totals, run defense efficiency, and how each player fits within the overall defensive scheme. It's a comprehensive process, and each potential addition is carefully scrutinized before any move is made. So while fans get excited by names and rumors, the reality is that a lot of thought goes into these decisions behind the scenes. The Cowboys are weighing assets, evaluating performance metrics, and projecting future cap implications. It's not just about making a splash. It's about making the right splash. The goal is to improve the team this season while maintaining flexibility and health for the years to come. That's the tightrope that front offices walk, and Dallas is no exception. The combination of draft capital, current roster evaluation, and trade market opportunities all feed into the decision-making process. As the weeks progress, we'll start to see which players are realistically available and which trades can make sense. Dallas has the opportunity to be patient, watch how their own team develops, and measure interest across the league. Whether it's reinforcing the defensive line, adding an edge rusher, or finding a complementary piece for the secondary, the right move could be transformative. But the key is discipline, insight, and timing, traits that define successful teams and separate temporary fixes from long-term solutions. The Cowboys have the assets and the flexibility. Now it's a matter of executing with precision. Now, when we dive into the specifics of potential targets, it's clear that Dallas isn't just looking for anyone who can rush the passer. They're looking for a player who can truly impact games immediately. Think about the kind of production that moves the needle. Consistent pressures, sacks that shift momentum, the ability to collapse the pocket against elite quarterbacks. Those are the traits that transform a defense from good to great. And that's exactly what the Cowboys are trying to add. It's not just about depth or rotation. It's about bringing in someone who elevates the entire unit. That's why names like Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips keep coming up in discussions, because they offer a combination of proven performance and the kind of versatility that fits well in Dallas' defensive scheme. Chubb, for example, has shown he can generate pressure even when the surrounding unit is inconsistent. And Phillips brings athleticism and the ability to disrupt both the run and the pass. Of course, when evaluating these kinds of trades, the contractual picture can't be ignored. Salary considerations, cap hits, and the potential long-term financial impact all play a huge role in whether a move is feasible. A player who looks great on paper might suddenly become too expensive when you factor in prorated salaries, bonuses, or future years on the contract. That's why the Cowboys front office has to balance immediate impact with financial sustainability. They need to ensure that any addition makes sense not only for this season, but also for the next few years, maintaining flexibility to continue building around core players and not hamstringing themselves with one big acquisition. Then there's the injury factor. Some of these defensive players have had injuries that could be concerning, which adds another layer of complexity to any trade. Teams are always evaluating durability alongside performance, and Dallas has to consider how a player's injury history might affect availability in critical games. You don't want to commit high draft capital or significant salary to a player who might miss half the season. That's where careful scouting, film study, and medical evaluations become crucial. It's not just about a player's current stats or highlights. It's about predicting how they will perform week in and week out, especially in high-stakes situations. When you think about the defensive line specifically, it's a tricky puzzle. You need pass rushers who can consistently beat blockers, defensive tackles who can collapse the pocket, and versatile players who can rotate without losing effectiveness. Adding someone like Jeffrey Simmons might seem appealing because of his talent and previous production. But the reality is that balancing salary, playing time, and the roles of other defensive linemen becomes complicated. You can't simply stack 3 high-cost players on the line and expect harmony. Someone is going to see reduced snaps, which could lead to frustration or wasted investment. That's why the Cowboys have to be strategic, identifying players who fill specific needs rather than creating overlap. Beyond the individual player evaluation, the trade market itself is unpredictable. Some teams aren't willing to move key contributors, while others might test the waters just to see what they can get in return. Dallas has to navigate these waters carefully, understanding which teams are motivated to trade and which are holding firm. It's a delicate negotiation, often involving multiple parties and complex discussions about draft picks, contract considerations, and future potential. The Cowboys can't rush into anything, because making the wrong move could set the team back instead of moving it forward. Patience and timing are as important as the actual evaluation of talent. Then you have the strategic element of positioning within the NFC. The conference is wide open, and every move counts. A well-timed addition could give Dallas a crucial edge in key matchups, potentially swinging a close game into a win and influencing playoff seeding. That's why these trade discussions aren't just about roster improvement. They're about positioning the team to take advantage of the larger landscape. Understanding how other teams are performing, who's struggling, and where opportunities exist is all part of the calculus. Dallas has to be aware not just of what they need, but also of what gaps exist league-wide that they can exploit. When you factor in draft capital, the calculus becomes even more interesting. Those 2 first-round picks and a second-rounder are incredibly valuable, and the Cowboys have to decide how much they're willing to spend to acquire immediate impact. There's always a balance between keeping picks for the future and using them to address pressing needs today. Trading a first-rounder for an elite player could elevate the team immediately, but it also reduces flexibility in future drafts. That's why every trade scenario has to be weighed carefully against both current goals and long-term planning. It's not just about winning this year. It's about sustaining success over multiple seasons. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Hold on to your hats, NFL fans, because the league's rumor mill just exploded. Sources are whispering that the Cleveland Browns have officially agreed to a blockbuster trade, sending none other than Myles Garrett to the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, you read that right. Myles Garrett, the powerhouse defensive end who has terrorized quarterbacks across the league, could soon be calling Texas home. The deal, which insiders say has been in the works behind closed doors for weeks, is rumored to include multiple draft picks and potentially some key players moving in the opposite direction. While the Browns have been tight-lipped, sources close to the team suggest that management is looking to shake things up and rebuild around a different core, making Garrett's departure a shocker, but perhaps a calculated risk. Cowboys fans are buzzing, and for good reason. Garrett's arrival would instantly transform Dallas' defensive line into one of the most feared in football. Imagine him alongside Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Quarterbacks would have to think twice before stepping up in the pocket. Coaches are reportedly thrilled at the prospect, seeing Garrett not just as a pass rusher, but as a leader who could elevate the entire defense. But as always with rumors this spicy, caution is key. No official press release has dropped yet, and league insiders warn that until the paperwork is filed, anything can happen. Still, the sheer excitement among Cowboys faithful is palpable, with social media exploding over potential jersey sales, defensive highlights, and game-changing plays. On the Browns side, speculation is rampant. Some analysts argue that moving Garrett could signal a full-scale rebuild, while others insist the team might already have a replacement in mind, a younger talent ready to grow into the spotlight. The trade market is buzzing, with experts weighing whether Cleveland gets the long-term assets they crave in exchange for losing one of the most dominant defenders of the past decade. For now, the chatter continues, and insiders are hinting that confirmation could come any day now. One thing is certain: if this deal goes through, the NFL landscape will never look the same. Garrett in Dallas? It's a rumor, a buzz, and potentially the start of one of the most jaw-dropping chapters in recent football history. Stay tuned, because whatever happens, the fallout will be unforgettable. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.